Hello and welcome back to the Frugal Granny channel. It's Saturday and today I've decided to answer another viewer question which came up I think as a result of Coffee and Catch Up on Thursday, and that question is, now that my youngest son is moving out, will I be thinking about downsizing? Anyway, welcome to the Frugal Granny channel. I'm Frugal Granny and my name's Ali. I'm an almost 65-year-old semi-retiree trying to make the best of what I've got between having left my office or career ladder job in the spring and hopefully getting my state pension in July 2027. Okay, so it's Saturday morning and they've just both put all of my son's clothes in the car and driven off to the flat for the next load of stuff that needs transferring. I took a whole load of things over yesterday, mainly stuff from the kitchen and all the shoes that were in the hallway. So I think now everything in the kitchen that belongs to my youngest son is now gone and been packed. 1 minute, I just need to turn down the soup that I'm simmering in the background. Okay, that's better. I'm just boiling some potatoes and simmering some butternut squash soup. Right, so where was I? Yes, yesterday I took over all the kitchen stuff that I'd packed up, all the things that belong to him. That's basically everything in terms of crockery that belongs to him, bits and pieces, a liquidizer, the rice cooker, all the things on his pantry shelf in the pantry, and a few bits and pieces that I'd added in for good measure. Well, literally a measuring jug, a bag of spare cutlery that he wanted, some coffee mugs, all the sorts of things that mums think that their kid might need. And well, I know what it's like. When I was in that situation, my mother-in-law plied me with a lot of stuff and quite a lot of it ended up in the bin. So, you know, whatever he does with it, that's up to him. I've gifted it and it's out of my hands now. Yeah, so all that's left in the kitchen is a few things on one of the shelves in the fridge and a few bits in his drawer of the fridge freezer, and those can go tomorrow. I think tomorrow really will be move out day proper. Yeah, so there's just my shoes in the hall now, a few of his coats, I guess they'll go tomorrow. The stuff in the back room, the pug snug, that's all gone through. And I've used this as an opportunity as I've gone through each cupboard and shelf to rationalise my own things as well. And yesterday I put 2 cushions out on the front wall, a few odd bits of crockery that I didn't want anymore, and a small storage basket, and they all went incredibly quickly. Yeah, so question. Now that my youngest son is moving out, will I think about downsizing? Well, to be honest with you, the thought has crossed my mind over the last few weeks, me thinking, you know, I live in a 3-bedroom house and I'm now technically on my own, and although I shut off various rooms in the winter that I'm not using, I still have to heat them and air them out occasionally, and it would be a lot more economical to shrink everything and move to a smaller house or even a flat. But actually, the short answer to the viewer question is no, I am not going to be downsizing anytime soon. Over the last, oh golly, how many years will it be now? Actually, it's 20 years. It seems a lot shorter than that, but over the last 20 years, I've downsized significantly twice. The first downsizing was in 2000 and... Actually, was it 2009? I honestly, I can't really remember now without counting back on my fingers, but I lived in a very large house at that time, 4-bedroomed house, massive reception rooms, a hallway that you could literally swing a cat in, double garage, massive garden, an incredibly big utility room that I used to... What are you doing, Bella? that I used to store bits for the business I ran at that time. And when we left that house, I literally cut our possessions in half. Yeah, we had massive attic rooms as well, one of those which I used as my study office, and yeah, went through it all and cleared it all out, tidied it all up, and we moved to, yeah, we were still in a 4-bedroomed house when we moved, but it was a lot more compact. The hallway was still quite big. It was not like the hallway I've got now, which is literally a corridor, but it was definitely a smaller house. We still had some attic space for storage, which was great, and we still had a large garage, which was fantastic. That's one thing I really do miss, is not having a garage or some boarded up attic space. And then when I found myself suddenly single in 2012, I was obliged actually to stay in the larger family home for a while because my youngest son was still finishing his qualifications at college, and I needed to stay around until he had done that. And I'm not kidding you. The weekend he finished his BTEC, we moved on the Monday, or was it the Saturday? Well, it literally was. I came home with all the stuff from his final year project one night, and the removal van came the next day. I was out of there as soon as I possibly could and downsized into the house I've got now. I know a lot of people think that the house I live in now is pretty large, and I guess, you know, it is a generous house, and I'm very lucky to be living where I am. But just let me explain why I went for the larger house option when I downsized. I had 3 plans at that stage, as my followers will know by now, the ones that have been with me for months. I always seem to have plan A, B, C, D, E, and well, actually the plan I'm living at the moment isn't even in the alphabet, but there we go. But at that time I had 3 plans. The idea was to buy 3 small houses, live in one and rent out 2 for income, or buy a medium-sized house and a small house and rent out the smaller one for income, or just to buy one larger house. That would effectively tie up my capital and protect it in that sense, and would offer me the opportunity maybe to take in a lodger or 2 once my not so adult kids at that stage had fled the nest. Well, as you can probably see, I went for option C, which is the larger house. And the reason I did that in the end, there were 2 main reasons, and the biggest reason was that my kids suffered an awful lot of disruption when their father, I'm not going to mince my words, he disappeared. So my mission ever since then has been to look after them and make sure that they have the security they need to become whole, functioning, healed adults in modern society. And I've, chosen to have a bigger house when I downsized, so that there was always room, A, for the youngest one who's lived with me in this house for the last 9 years, and B, for any of the others that needed to come and go as life circumstances dictated. Now, I've already had my daughter come back for 3 years. She decided to take a life break a while back, came to stay with me for 3 months while she looked to buy her own home. And then lockdown happened, and she ended up being with me for 3 years, which was absolutely lovely. But she now lives with her partner in another city, and that's great. But I was so thrilled to be able to be there for her when she needed it. And I've been there for my youngest son too, while he's needed it. And now he doesn't need it anymore, he is moving out. But that is not to say that, any of the 4 of them may not need somewhere to come home to at some point in their life. And I do not want to preclude them from that sense of security any time soon. Not in the next 10 years at least, anyway, by which time I'll be pushing 75 if I'm still alive. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I will be. So that is the main reason I went for a bigger house, and it's actually the main reason why I do not want to downsize. I want there to be somewhere for my kids to come back to and know that they are safe, that they can take a deep breath and reset their lives if they need to. So no, I won't be downsizing anytime soon. But having said that, I do live a very minimal life. As I said, I've been through all my kitchen cupboards and all the cupboards in the back room over the last week, and taken obviously my youngest son's things out, but again, evaluated all the stuff in there that was mine and whether I needed it or not. Some things I've moved around a bit, some things I've chucked out, and as you saw from my trip to IKEA the other Saturday, there have been a few bits of white porcelain that I've replaced. Yep, I'm a woman on her own. Why do I need 8 cereal bowls? Well, if my family are all here at one time, I will do, and I don't really want to be scrapping around at that point or having people eating out of plastic. I really don't. So for the time being, I've still got 8 of everything, and that's absolutely fine, and those will get broken over the years, I'm sure. And you know, if anything happens to me, they can just put it on the front wall like all the other stuff that I don't want, and somebody will take it. None of it's valuable. Nothing I own is valuable, not at all. Yeah, so that's really the main reason I don't want to downsize, is I want security for my kids. And it was the main reason I bought one larger house rather than, you know, a medium one and one to rent, or 3 small ones, 1 to live in and 2 to rent. And also, you know, as I've been here over the last 9 years, I've met various people and I've talked to people, and I'm actually glad I've not gone down the landlord route. It does seem like an incredibly large amount of hassle, and although I don't follow it very closely, there have been a lot of legislative changes pertaining to landlords, and obviously we had the pandemic as well, and so I'm really glad I didn't go down that route. Yeah, now there are some subsidiary reasons also why I don't want to downsize for the time being. The second reason, after you know, a stable place for my kids. Oh yeah, and that just reminds me, next door, she died a few years ago now, but next door lived in a house the same as mine, but the mirror image, until she was in her mid-90s. And one of her adult children came home aged 55 due to a change in life circumstances. So, you know, just because kids grow up and leave the nest doesn't mean they sometimes don't need somewhere to come back to. So I'm not in a hurry to downsize at the moment. Yeah, but as I said, the second reason is because I have my dogs. Now, obviously, Bella was not plan A. Bella was an afterthought, which was sprung upon me really by my youngest son's concern for me being on my own when he moved out, and the fact that Kitty's 13. I mean, she could last another year or 2, but it's not going to be much longer, and he didn't want me to be on my own, and thought it would be a lot better for my well-being if I'd got a dog that would help me have structure to my day and to give me some company. So I've got Bella and I have got Kitty. Well, Kitty is going blind quite rapidly, and it's really important to me that Kitty stays in a place where she knows the layout. And I'm constantly saying to myself, and obviously to the adult kids that come and go, please don't leave things in the hall, don't leave things in doorways, because Kitty knows the floor plan of this house now. She knows, you know, how long the hallway is, she knows where the kitchen door is, she knows where the back door is, she knows how many steps there are, she knows where the foam steps up to the sofa are. She knows these things, and if I moved to a new house, she would have to learn all this again with either partial or no eyesight, and I just think that's a level of disruption I don't want for her. Again, she's almost like my child. I just want her to have a level of security too. And with Bella, obviously she's new, she's very adaptable at the moment, still a little bit nervous, But I don't want any more disruption for her. I don't know whether I'm her third or her fourth home, but she's a very nervous dog. We've had a little bit of a relapse with her this week because of all the upheaval with my youngest son moving out. I mean, she was in a right state yesterday when I was putting stuff in the car to drive over to his flat, and you know, I just want her to have some stability too. And also, you know, after, how old am I now? Nearly 65. I got married when I was 22. So, I mean, what's that? 43 years, really, of living in other people's pockets. I just really want some time to myself in a space that I have spent the last almost decade making my own. Excuse me, the washing machine's just about to drain. We'll just go on pause for a minute. Right, I'm back again. It wasn't going into spin, it was just draining and spinning and rinsing. So we'll be quick about this before it decides to... sorry, I'm just trying to swallow my vitamin supplements and talk to you at the same time, which is not a good idea. Hang on a minute. Yeah, who needs channel memberships when you're getting this sort of behind the scenes footage? Okay, right, vitamin supplements swallowed. Where did we get to? I am honestly not quite sure. Oh yes, the dogs and wanting my own space. Yeah, I am looking forward to having my own space, even if it's only for a little while. Yeah, I think the other big consideration about downsizing as you get older is, you know, can I practically live in this house when I get older? And there are quite a few causes for concern about this house when I get older. The main one, I think, being the stairs. My neighbour, the one who made it to her mid-90s, was forbidden by her adult children from going down into the cellar once she reached a certain age, and I expect I will probably find myself in the same situation if I stay in this house. I will have to get to a point where anything that I use on a daily basis or a regular basis is not in the cellar, and effectively close off the cellar apart from meter reading. And maybe at that point I will have to have one of these plug-in smart meters so that I don't have to go down into the cellar to read the gas and the electricity meters. And that obviously too will mean the end of my deep freeze habit. I will just have to then be satisfied with the upright freezer that I have in my kitchen area. So yes, the back door step would also be a bit of an issue. The steps up to the front door, I guess, would be an issue. Quite a few houses on my street have actually had those steps rebuilt so that they are, the tread is deeper and the rise is not so high, and they've had a handrail put in. 1 minute, a coffee's just doing its thing. Just turn that off. Yeah, the only thing about handrails is, you know, I don't really like those sort of tubular handrails that smack of old people's homes, so I would probably want to see if I could find something a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. But then aesthetically pleasing costs money, and I may just end up with a tubular handrail. But that was one thing that I was going to do if I'd continued working at the office for another 2 years, was get my front door steps altered so that the tread was deeper, the rise was not as high, and I was going to have a handrail put in. So I had been thinking ahead for that. But obviously that's not on my list anymore, not for the time being, but it will be something that I might have to consider later if I want to stay in this house, as would probably being resurfacing the front path. It's not a very long path, but it's long enough to slip and break your hip on, especially in the icy weather. And I was just thinking about that the other day, actually, whether I should get a bag of rock salt in for the winter, because there are one or two bits on that path that are slippy. I know where they are and I know to avoid them, but other people don't, and it's amazing how fast you can go over once you slip. I've slipped and broken my coccyx before, well, fractured it. I slipped on some rocks when we were in southern Norway, when I was trying to stop my smallest son throwing himself into the sea, and I reached forward very quickly to grab him and ended up losing my footing, landing on my tail basically and fracturing it. That was very painful, but the hospitals in Norway are excellent. They looked after me amazingly. Anyway, aside from that, yeah, what else would not be very sustainable about this house? Using the log stoves probably wouldn't be very sustainable, because carrying all that wood in, especially in the summer, and then bringing in wood on a weekly basis, unless, you know, one of my kids living locally, you know, was committed to sort of helping me on a weekly basis bring in a week's supply of wood. That's basically what I do at the moment, is I bring in the wood for the week. Obviously some of you would have seen my wood stacking video over the summer. I stack a winter's worth of wood in a day, and well, I wouldn't be able to do that if I was on a Zimmer frame. So yeah, that would be a big consideration. Heating, definitely. I do know that older neighbours on this street have talked to me about closing off the front room in the winter and just living in the back room and the kitchen to conserve heat, and I've actually considered that as well. Now that my son's moving out, I'm thinking maybe I should just close off the front room in the winter months. I've already, over the last 9 years, when it hasn't been occupied, closed off the second bedroom in the winter. Yeah, so, and then you think, well, if I'm going to shrink my living space like that, maybe I should just move. But as I said again, I'm just very concerned about there being space for my family when they need it, for the time being anyway. So what else would not be sustainable in this house? Probably the bathroom. The bath is really not suitable for an older person. It's quite a wide bath, and you need to lean over it quite extensively to get hold of the handrail on the wall. I had that handrail put in when I moved in, because, you know, even as a relatively fit 60-something-year-old, I'm very aware that I need to steady myself when I'm getting into that bath. I have heard stories of people slipping and banging their head in the bath and then drowning in their own bath water, and I don't want that to happen to me. Thank you. I really, really don't. I don't want anyone to find me in that situation either. Yeah, so the bath's not a fantastic thing, and I do know that some of my other neighbours have had their bathroom completely ripped out and turned into a walk-in shower, and I guess there's always that option. I'm not ready to do that yet. I really do like my baths, and I'm not ready to give up baths yet, but I may have to. So I can see that staying in this house from a practical point of view, and probably from a financial point of view in terms of the amount of council tax and how much it costs to heat it, you know, downsizing probably will make sense in the end, but I don't particularly want to do that yet. And I think I touched on it, or I'm not sure if it was in the comment or in a video recently, that when I bought this house, I was very keen on the attic floor, because it's basically self-contained apart from cooking facilities, so I could actually rent that out if I need an extra income stream, and I probably will do that at some point, but I'm not ready for that yet. No, definitely not ready for that yet. I think it's going to take more than a weekend for my youngest to move out, and I don't want anybody moving in before Christmas. And if I do get a lodger, I'd probably like them to be a master's student who's who's following the academic year, so nothing is going to happen with the attic bedroom at least until next autumn, and in the meantime I'm probably going to repaint it, etc. It needs a bit of a refresh after what will then be a decade. Yeah, I'll have been in this house a decade by next summer. So yes, I am very, very aware of the potential and of the limitations of the house that I live in. But one thing I am doing is decluttering. As I said, I've downsized twice. I mean, when I moved from the last house to this house, I cut my possessions again by another 50%. And there are still things that could go, and I will be having a look at those seriously over the next few months as the dust settles. Obviously, some things you need to keep to have a room in a functioning state, but you know what I mean is to look at, you know, personal possessions that I don't want my family to be agonizing over. I have already, and you probably laugh at this, left little notes attached to various things in the house, not on view but attached, you know, so that if anything does happen to me, they know that a particular item has had some sentimental value or has an heirloom value, and you know, they can then decide whether they want to keep it. Or on some of my books and things, I've actually left a note to say which library they need to offer those books to as donations. I mean, they're not the sort of books that you can send to Oxfam, unfortunately. Yeah, so I am thinking about the future, but I also want to live in the here and now and embrace the fact that I'm going to have a bit of time on my own, and I want to learn to love myself a little bit better now that I can start putting myself first for a little bit, which is going to be quite difficult for me because I've been putting other people first for most of my life actually. And so I'm going to be entering a new phase, starting on a new learning curve. I'm going to have to establish some good new routines and structures. I mean, here I am getting up thinking it's breakfast time, and I look at the clock and it says it's 12:15. It's actually lunchtime. I'm behaving a little bit like a teenager at the moment, and I do need to get a little bit more structure into my life. But anyway, as per last Saturday, what will I do when I get the state pension? This Saturday's, am I going to think about downsizing now my family have left home? I'm sorry if it's not a terribly conclusive answer. I am very aware of all the issues, the pros and the cons, but the moment is not yet. The moment is very much not yet. I mean, my house is very well situated for all the stuff I need, and I think to find another place that offers me as much in terms of location and facilities and neighbours, etc., would be incredibly difficult. And I'm really not at that point at the moment. I still feel like the dust is settling from having left my career ladder job. The dust is going to take at least 6 to 8 weeks to settle from my youngest moving out and me establishing new routines. And then goodness knows what else life is going to throw at me in the interim. So at the moment, no, I just want to stay where I am, enjoy what I've got, rediscover myself a little bit. Anyway, right, I'm not really quite sure what Magazine Monday is going to look like this Monday, what with everything that's been going on. So it might take a little bit of a different format. And I'm apologising, instead of pug snoring, today you've got washing machine noises, but I'm afraid that's just real life in the Frugal Granny household. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. Hug your pets, hug your kids, because you never know how long we've got any of them for. And I'll catch you again on Monday. Thank you very much as well to everybody who's liked and subscribed over the last week. And just a quick spoiler alert, I have actually decided that membership is not for this channel. So any of you who've been worrying about that, worry no more. We will talk about that maybe a little bit on Monday. Monday might be a little bit of a hodgepodge, but I'll definitely be there. I don't know quite in what form. And excuse me, please, for being in my civvies today. Yeah, it is Saturday, and I'm in a bit sort of relaxed mode. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see you soon. And now it's your pup date. It's time for your Kitty and Bella fix. These dogs don't do anything much except sleep, bark out of the window, and eat. And I'm sorry about the washing machine, I really am. It just is not enough hours in the day at the moment. There's Kitty fast asleep. Oh, she's still breathing. She's such a kitty. She's so soft. Oh, and there is Bella side-eye. And there's Bella. She's giving me a little bit of a side eye. You're still a little bit worried, aren't you, Poppet, with all the coming and going? Anyway, there you are. Double bonus for you all. Washing machine noises and pug snores. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for bearing with me. It's been a bit of a week, and it's not over yet, but we'll get there soon. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.